Hey there, fellow travelers of the cinematic cosmos. I'm your guide, Joseph Sharafi, and I'm here to invite you to ride shotgun on a wild journey we call Flashback Montage. On this trip, we'll plunge headfirst into the glorious chaos of film, TV, and the strange tales of lifestyle coaches who have shifted the tides of human consciousness. In each episode, we'll storm the gates of a different year, exploring the psychedelic depths of the stories that made us weep, laugh, and redefine the American dream. So my friends, throw your aviator glasses on, grab some popcorn, and buckle up for a mind-bending escapade. Subscribe to Flashback Montage on YouTube, and together we'll dance with the ghosts of our favorite celluloid memories. See you on the other side. Welcome to Flashback Montage, the podcast where we take a trip down memory lane and revisit some of the most iconic movies and TV shows and cultural moments of the past. I'm your host, Joseph Sharafi, and each week I'll be joined by a special guest as we dive into a specific year and explore the highlights of that time. From blockbusters that defined the era to shows that kept us glued to our screens, we'll relive the nostalgia and celebrate the classics that still hold up till today. But we won't be just talking about entertainment. We'll also take a little bit of time to talk about lifestyle coaches who inspired and influenced us and how their impact can still be felt in our lives today. So it's a journey through time that will make you laugh, reminisce, and maybe even shed a tear. So grab your popcorn, settle in, and let's take a trip back in time with Flashback Montage. Thank you so much for joining us. This week, my special guest is a thespian. He is a writer, and he is a friend of mine. I'm so happy to be able to bring him onto the show. Glenn Heath, thank you so much for being here. Would you take time to say hi to our audience and give us a little background about you and what your interests are?
Hello, audience. My name is Glenn Heath, actor, writer, improvisational comedian out here in Las Vegas. Been working in the realm for over 25 years, film, television, stage, some shows out on the Vegas Strip. Even sold a screenplay a number of years ago. The very first one I wrote sold. But yeah, wow. Never another one.
What was the name of that one? Can you say?
It was called The Shadowlands, and no, not the one with Anthony Hopkins.
Oh.
Or not The Shadowlands. Sorry. Shadowlands was a movie I did with Gary Busey. God, what was the name of the? Oh, it'll come to me at the most inopportune time.
No worries.
The Shroud.
The Shroud.
The Shroud.
The Shroud. Are you open? Because I mean, we want to kind of help young filmmakers and like we aim at the entertainment thing of talking about movies and stuff, but really we do aim at young filmmakers and giving them advice and stuff of being in the business. Do you have any advice for a young writer trying to sell a script?
If you are a writer, keep writing. It's weird. The situation that I was in, and the movie The Shadowlands came up because I was working on a film in Reno with Gary Busey. He and I were the two leads. And I ended up partnering with the head PA and our fight coordinator, who was also our craft services guy.
Isn't it funny how that ends up happening? Everybody ends up doing some stuff.
Yeah, but it was one of those situations where the three of us formed a little LLC because we had been, through the course of the filming, we were pitching ideas. And I had pitched an idea, which they're like, hey, that sounds cool. And we wrote the screenplay. I did the second, third, and fourth rewrites of it. But we ended up, we wanted to produce it, and we were working on getting money, and we brought in a lawyer who was going to work pro bono for us, and then we got somebody else who wanted to work with us on product placement money.
Oh wow!
And we brought this guy in, and after like 4 months, he came back with all these bills, but not a single penny. No, not a single one. And we basically removed him from the project. 5 years later, the same guy came back and wanted to buy the screenplay from us.
Whoa.
We had already dissolved the company, sold it for $25,000.
Okay.
Back in 92.
Okay.
maybe.
Okay.
And last I heard, he got arrested and was put in jail. So the film never got made.
Wow. Was it? Do you think that he got it to kind of in spite of you guys? Like, screw you guys, they
You know
tried to get
what?
me out of it. Now I'm going to go back because I've got all this Coke money and I'm going to buy it.
I
That
don't
was
know.
just I added the Coke for dramatic effect.
Sure, I don't recall what he was arrested for, but he had offered us $100,000 for it early on, and we were wide-eyed and dreamy and whatnot, and thinking, oh, that would be great, but this is our first one. We should have taken it because, as it turned out, our lawyer that was working pro bono decided not to after we sold it. So I made absolutely nothing out of it.
Wow. Absolutely
Not a
nothing.
penny.
So that's something to
Not a
say to
penny.
young writers is, dang,
Well,
take the first offer.
And yeah. And it was the first screenplay I had written. And a few months after he bought it, he came back to me and he's like, hey, I want you to be the writer on set. I was like, oh, so you are producing this. Okay. And I talked to a couple of my friends of mine. I have a friend in New York who's Emmy Award winning for Days of Our Lives. I have another friend who's a playwright, and another friend who's I have a few friends who are romance authors. But I reached out to those that were in the business, and they're like, yeah, make sure you get scale. And he was not willing to even consider paying me scale for. He's like, you're not a union writer. And I was like, well, I am part of the union, or at least I was at the time. And he's like, well, I can't do that. And I was like, well, then I guess you can't work with me. But yeah, that was it's a fun story, and I've kept up writing here and there, but mostly sketch comedy. I've written a couple of pilots, like spec pilots. I wrote and funny, we'll be talking about it, but I wrote like an Outer Limits episode.
Oh wow!
Nothing that's ever been sold, but
sure.
But yeah, I can only tell young aspiring artists, whether they're writers, actors, singers, work your craft. A lot of stuff in this world is right place, right time, and even more so, who you know.
Be prepared.
And just being prepared. I've done some workshops with writers, from The Simpsons and a few others, and you just hope that they'll be like, hey, this kid's got something. I've never been the one that had something for writing, but I do enjoy it.
But you definitely have something for acting, for sure.
For what?
For acting, for sure.
Oh yeah, I got
You're
lots
such
of.
a great actor. Like, me and my girlfriend Aubrey went and saw them at Comedy Sports, which is an improvisation kind of sports fun interactive thing that they do in Las Vegas, and it was so fun. And you were amazing. You deserve to win. He was the winner, where winning means absolutely nothing except for just like amazing.
Yeah,
like, kind of whose line is it anyway? Sort of deal.
It's very much like Whose Line Is It Anyway? Family friendly.
I love that. Where can they go see the show if they want to go and get
comedy?
tickets?
Well, Comedy Sports is an international franchise, very similar to the Second City, Improv Olympic, but Comedy Sports has been around for, good Lord, 30 years. And the location here in Las Vegas is on Sahara Boulevard, the little theater called Mom's Basement. But you can certainly find anything out at CSZ. That's a Z as in Z. CSZLasVegas.com.
And we can drop all that in the intertext too for people.
Oh yeah. But their shows every Saturday night at 7:00, and then they have other shows throughout the week where even if you wanted to play yourself, they have the drop-in jam where it's, again, whose line is it anyway type games. And if you want to play, stick your hand up in the air and get picked to come play. It's a lot of fun.
Now allow me to get a little bit more personal with you.
Right.
I want to know a little bit of a background of how movie and television has shaped who you are as a person, as an artist, as a performer. How we're a big proponent of getting people back to the theaters and for filmmakers to make movies that are worth people going to the theaters.
Sure.
And so give us a little bit of how filmmaking and TV have crafted who you are as a person and an artist.
Yeah. Well, I've been doing theater improvisation since 1995. And part of being able to be a strong improviser is to have a strong knowledge of genre, of writers and directors and actors, not only in film, but television and stage, because we do a lot of musical stuff as well. I will be honest with you in that I have thousands of movies in my collection, and finding the time to sit down and really get into movies. I perform a lot. I'm in 2 musicals right now, doing my improvisation, and then I work. So a lot of times it's just pop culture, finding out what's popular, and so I kind of dive into that recently. But from an early age, my family would go to the movies as a family, to the drive-in, if you remember those kids.
Dude, I used to go all the time with my mom.
Yeah. And I mean, I saw the original Raiders of the Lost Ark with my dad at the drive-in. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Dick Van Dyke, very nice.
Dick Van, yeah. Hot Lead and Cold Feet, the Apple Dumpling Gang. I mean, we would go to, and they would have the double features, where the kids movie was first, and then the adult movie, not the adult movie, but the movie not for kids.
Yeah, the more mature movie.
Yeah. I mean,
rated R. We're not talking NC-17 or
no, but
that.
It's funny is that the theater I used to go to when I was a kid, where I saw Star Wars on opening day and at least 25 other times when it first came out, that theater became like the adult theater in town.
Oh, geez.
It's been renovated, and now it's reverted back to its classic theater. But yeah. And what's interesting is I didn't get into acting until I was out of college, so 1993. I didn't even follow musicals or anything really. And a friend of mine that I was working with in Pittsburgh asked me if I could give him a ride to an improv show. And just turned out that I took him there, got me in. And 5 years later, I moved to Nevada, but I started doing improvisation that day. And it was just one of those things where I kind of fell into it, where people are like, "Hey, you're pretty funny. You should do regular theater." Oh, okay. Ended up doing some commercials out in Pittsburgh. Moved to Nevada. Ended up doing some films out here. Nothing that anyone's seen me in. I mean, I was in the original Bachelor. Was it Bachelor? Not Bachelor Party with Tom Hanks. What was the one they filmed here?
Hangover?
The Hangover, yeah. And you can see me in it, but I'm just a featured extra.
Nice.
But
I was a featured extra in the Bourne. What was it? The Bourne. What was the
Supremacy?
Is that the one that they shot here with the big chase on the strip with Matt
Damon?
The
Bourne. I think it was the Bourne Supremacy.
Yeah. Dude, I was right
an
next
inspector.
to Matt Damon, bro. He was so short, and he smelled like nothing. He literally had no scent at all. I was like, how does somebody do that? I literally was like, he's really short and he's got no smell. That's amazing.
That's funny. I did. I was on set for the movie Inspector Gadget when it filmed
with Matthew Broderick.
Yeah,
nice, dude. Go,
however,
Gadget, awesome.
I I sat in a holding tent in summer in Pittsburgh, so it was humid. I sat in a holding tent for 14 hours and was never used.
Oh man, did they pay you though?
But I was
They
there when
paid
they
you though,
filmed
right?
Dogma and Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, Dogma.
Um,
Oh wow. So
yeah,
that's a good one.
I was in college when Silence of the Lambs was filmed, and the final scene where Hannibal Lecter is in the cage.
Mm-hmm.
It was in the Soldiers and Sailors Museum in Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I used to do my military functions when I was in college. I did ROTC in college.
Mm-hmm.
So it was always fun to just kind of go there and go, that's where he bit off the face of the cop. That's cool.
That looks familiar. Amazing. This actually biting off the face of the cop, that actually gives us a segue to our next area. We're going to bite off some movie and TV shows, top of our top fives. So if you haven't already seen the program, we go from top 5 down to 1, 5 from your least to your most, right? And so we're going to go ahead and start with TV shows. Now we're going to savor these moments a little bit. So go ahead and give me your top 5 of your favorite TV show. What's your 5 spot?
Top 5. Well, I'm gonna in any particular order.
No. It's got to be 5 down to 1. So 5 from the least to
1.
the one most important.
1 is the most important. All right, so 5. I'm going to go with Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Whose Line Is It Anyway? We just discussed it a little bit, but can you tell the audience what is Whose Line Is It Anyway, and why does it have such a special place in your heart?
Well, I started watching the British production of it, and Whose Line Is It Anyway was essentially 4 comedians on stage and a host that would award points that really didn't mean anything. And they would play short form improvisational games, World's Worst, Scenes from a Hat, Hoedown, there's so many different games that can be played. And it was just one of those shows that I could turn on at any time. Didn't matter whether I turned it on halfway through, whether Comedy Central was doing a marathon. But when I started performing, I just went back to it. And the British series only lasted a few years, but the American version with Wayne Brady and Ryan Stiles, Colin Mockery, Greg Proops, hosted by Drew Carey, and then Aisha Tyler. I will just sit and watch those clips because those are people that I admire, and some of them have, I like 2 degrees separation from Wayne Brady, because I have friends that I've been doing this with for 25 years. They've worked with these people, and I've worked with other people who've worked with those people. So there's this nice camaraderie with it, and it's just one of those. It's not one of those shows that you have to be invested in the characters, but I watch it because I can always pull something from what those performers do and use it in my craft.
Wow. Yes, absolutely. It's like it's almost learning for you because you do so much improv.
Oh yeah, constantly reading, and again, I try to stay current on TV shows and whatnot, but it is so hard. When I was a kid, there was 3 channels if I was lucky, and really there was only prime time. ABC, NBC, CBS. And occasionally PBS.
And then they got Fox, right? And
but not Fox. Fox didn't come around until I was junior in high school.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it was Fox. Fox was more of the affiliate.
ABC?
And so, no, it was
kind of another affiliate?
Well, in my town, the local TV station was a Fox affiliate, but only in prime time. So Married with Children. Yeah, so Married with Children, the Tracy Ullman Show, which spawned The Simpsons, then The Simpsons, and then it became its own thing. But my sister went to UCLA, and she came back for first holiday, and she's like, "Oh, you gotta watch the Tracy Ullman Show," and I'm like, "The what?" She's like, "Yeah, it's a big thing in LA," and we like found it on random channel. This is all before cable even. But yeah, I'm old.
So it's like, is Tracy Ullman, is that kind of like Kids in the Hallway or Running with Scissors sort of deal, or
Kids in the Hall?
Kids in the Hall. Is that what that
yeah,
is?
there's no way. But Tracy Ullman was sketch comedy. But she ended up doing voices on The Simpsons because The Simpsons was an animated short on her variety show. So Hank Azaria, Dan Castanella, they were all actors on her show. And when they did The Simpsons, it was just these little clips, kind of like when Saturday Night Live does TV Funhouse.
Yeah.
But The Simpsons was so popular, it just took off. And so those clips, which were really bad at the time, Matt Groening's, style, obviously hand-drawn, very sketchy drawings. But you can go back. Those clips are probably all on YouTube. But formed the show that's been, going 25 years now?
Wow.
And I could easily... I could easily put The Simpsons in my top 5, but I'm not going to.
Who would you say is your top 4? That brings us to, since you said...
Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Wow. Tell us a little bit about that and why you like it so much.
Well, Mystery Science Theater 3000 is a show that's been on the air, off the air, on the air for easily 30 years. The premise is that this character Joel gets kidnapped and sent to a station or on the moon. I don't remember which one it is because it changes every once in a while. And he's forced to watch bad movies. And in order to keep his sanity, he builds robots on his satellite of love. And they basically just riff at the movies. So if you ever hear of riff tracks, it's the same guys. Patton Oswalt ended up being on a reboot of it, but it was just one of those where just the worst movies you could think of, and they would just sit there and do what I do watching movies, just.
Do you talk jokes. Smack at the movies? Is that really?
Oh yeah, absolutely. My daughter hates it.
I was gonna say, do people like watching movies with you?
My daughter and I had a Thanksgiving tradition where we would do franchises, and so the last franchise we did, we've done the normal ones: Harry Potter, Fast and Furious, Saw. The normal family movies.
You watch all of them though?
Yeah, in order.
Wow.
We did the MCU. And
you did that in one day?
The MCU we couldn't do in one day, but all the other ones, yeah. Wow. We'd start Thanksgiving Day and go until we were done.
Wow.
Tremors was the last one that we did, and there are 7 Tremors movies.
I did not know that there were 7 of them. That's a hidden worm underneath the earth for sure. 7? Dang.
But yeah, and they're all equally horrible. And I love bad movies. I made her watch. What did I make her watch about a week and a half ago? Howard the Duck.
Oh. Wow.
And I was just like, well, we've seen all the other Marvel movies, but let's go back in time, shall we? Let's watch the Roger Corman Fantastic Four that I have a bootleg of. Let's watch Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., starring David Hasselhoff.
Whoa. Didn't even know that existed.
Oh,
That's crazy.
Well, and there was the TV shows of the Hulk that most people know, but there was a 1980s TV show, The Flash. I think there was even a Captain America TV show at one point. They were really bad because they're late 70s, early 80s. Special effects being what they were at the time. But
so Mystery Science Fiction Theater 3000. Right? Is that the name of it? So what?
Mystery Science Theater 3000. There's easily 500 episodes of it out there. But the movies are shortened down a little bit because it was made for TV broadcast. But the movies are mostly black and white. The later series they did stuff like Mac and Me.
Nice. That's right.
Yeah, but they're movies that people may know, but they're just really bad movies and.
But it makes you love the show.
Oh, sure. But and the actors from the show, they started doing riff tracks where they would record themselves watching a normal movie, and you could like download like subtitles or commentary tracks on a DVD that you could sync up their riff tracks to whatever movie you were watching and just get a different perspective on what you were watching. And then they would just go off on the actors or the story or whatever. And it's just cheesy fun. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. What's your number 3?
Number 3, Futurama.
Number 3, Futurama. Tell us a little bit about Futurama and why you like it so much.
It falls in the animation spectrum. I love animation. I'm not I don't watch anime per se, but when I was raising my daughter, I would always watch, her shows. And I hearken it back to the days of watching Bugs Bunny.
Mm-hmm.
Where as you get older, you start watching the Bugs Bunny cartoons over again. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, those jokes are not for kids.
Yeah.
And that was, just getting into, like the Powerpuff Girls, Scooby-Doo, all those great animated series, from the 70s, 60s, 70s and onward.
Mm-hmm.
But Futurama was just a smart series. And, the loss of Phil Hartman was tough for that show.
Yeah.
And they apparently got John, I'm going to butcher his name, but the voice actor for Bender, they signed him on, and there's a new season coming out in July.
Oh,
so
wow.
I'm
still
excited
doing
for that.
Seasons of Futurama?
It's been off the air for a decade.
Oh, for 10 years. Okay.
Yeah, but they're bringing it back, because nothing. There's no new ideas. Is that how it goes?
Is it?
So they're bringing Futurama back for another season.
To see how it goes. Is it still going on Fox? It's be on the normal.
I don't know. I think it's going to be on Hulu.
Hulu got it. See, that's what's going on now. Is they're getting rights to these old shows, and they're bringing them back on Netflix and Hulu. And sometimes it's good or sometimes it's bad, but I guess you're right. They need content. They need something. Yeah.
And if they can get the original episodes, they can run those things, into the ground.
Syndication.
Family Guy, American Dad, all those shows, Bob's Burgers, those just keep running, forever. And I enjoy all those shows as well. But
so let me try to dig in just a little deeper on Futurama. Yeah. Why exactly Futurama? I know you like animation, you like the other shows and whatnot. It's all inspired of that. But why Futurama itself?
It's smart. The writing is, it takes place, way in the future. But the social commentary in the writing is still relatable. The characters are whimsical and what's the right word? Dysfunctional.
Mm-hmm.
But they're successful despite all that. I just find it's very clever to be able to take modern era issues and convert them into futuristic storylines and still make it entertaining and funny. And it's also Matt Groening, so same creator as The Simpsons.
Yeah.
And I just find it the smarter of his series. He's got another one that I think that's on Netflix called Disenchantment.
Oh yes,
and it's got its moments. But Futurama was just well written and smart. Whereas like South Park and The Simpsons, they've been on the air for 25, 30 years. And Lisa's never grown up.
Sure.
And so, it's less episodic. Futurama was very episodic to where there was a building storyline.
Okay.
Whereas most animation is not.
That's good to know.
You know, the characters don't grow, they don't evolve, they don't change. And I think that's what I like most about Futurama is that the characters evolve, and you can get emotionally invested in them, unlike Game of Thrones, where, you know, the moment you're invested in a character, they're killed off. Spoiler, sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we didn't spoil anything, just that's what happens.
Yeah.
In general.
And so that, but conversely, my number 2 is SpongeBob.
Number two.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, tell us a little bit about SpongeBob and why SpongeBob is at the pinnacle of number 2.
SpongeBob is kind of like the modern day Bugs Bunny. You know, SpongeBob is a hapless, you know, character. You know, lives under the sea in a pineapple, works at the Krusty Krab. You know, all the things that don't make any sense in the real world. But it's just one of those, for me, it's just one of those guilty pleasures. And that's all it is. The characters most people know can relate to, you know, Squidward, Mr. Krabs, Sandy, Patrick Star, you know, Plankton. We know the characters. They've been around for forever. But it was one of those that my daughter would watch on Nickelodeon, and I would just sit there and go, and she's like, "What are you laughing at?" It's like you'll learn when you grow up.
Someday.
You'll understand
when
someday.
You mature,
so,
when the mind matures. That's amazing. I had heard that there was a theory that SpongeBob they were all allegories for different mental illnesses, like autism and depression and anger and ADD. And have you heard of this?
I could see that. I haven't heard that other than, you know, kind of like this. But yeah,
it makes sense though, right? Like
it does,
in a weird way.
But you can also track, you know, characters back to, you know, early theater where you had, and I don't know all the names, but you would have the archetypes. Mm-hmm. You would have the hero. You would have the villain. You would have the maiden. There were names like Pantalones. I can't think of all the Greek theater archetypes, and a lot of, you know, original theater. It was those, you knew who the characters were going to be based on the way they were dressed. They were dressed a specific way, and so I see SpongeBob more along those lines as a simplified. SpongeBob is the fool. Mm-hmm. You know, they're very two-dimensional. They don't they don't expand beyond their character's archetype. And SpongeBob could theoretically be the reluctant hero, and Patrick could be the fool.
Yeah.
And Plankton being the, you know, the Snidely Whiplash, you know. And so, and again, it's going to drive me crazy. I'll have to go back and, you know, look on that. But there is a list of ancient Greek theater of the specific archetypes that were used back then, and we still see it today in you know, your protagonist, your antagonist, your maiden in distress. You know, there's certain character types that you'll see in any film, more so than television, but you know, that hero villain, the melodrama types.
Got it.
Yeah.
What was your number one?
My number one is MASH.
MASH. Tell us a little bit about MASH and why you like it so much.
MASH is one of the most beloved TV shows in history. I remember, and I have a personal affection to it because it was something my mother watched. And my mother's a retired nurse. You know, we would watch Dukes of Hazzard together, and she would let me watch Dallas afterwards if I behaved. But MASH was just one that she and I watched. My dad and I would watch the bad movies because I'd get home late from work when I was in high school, and he would be up watching, you know, Hamburger the Motion Picture. and we just laugh at the stupid jokes that were in it. He loved Mel Brooks, Blazing Saddles. That's probably where I get my love for bad films, is from my dad. But MASH, the story centers around characters in the Korean War. Harry Morgan, Alan Alda, Jamie Farr, Loretta Swit, David Ogden Stiers, just a coterie of not Hall of Fame, but Emmy awards left and right for the show.
Wow.
And Alan Alda's character Hawkeye was one of the surgeons at this mobile army surgical hospital, the 4077th. And it was just one of those shows based off of a movie by not Ivan Reitman. Can't think of, but there was a movie in like 1972, and MASH was derived from that. There was another show called Trapper John MD that was derived off of that movie. I think MASH even had 2 or 3 spin-offs that didn't go anywhere. But it was just one of those that it had drama, it had comedy, it was engaging, and it's one of those TV shows that I've probably seen every episode 2 or 3 times. I'm like that with Star Trek, but there's 12,000 episodes of Star Trek.
Oh wow! No idea.
Well, I don't know how many. I'm exaggerating, but MASH was one of those shows that its series finale, and this was back when syndication was, hey, if you miss it when it airs the first time, you may be lucky to catch it again in the summer when it airs the second time, because there wasn't that constant Netflix type thing where you could just watch whatever episode you want over and over and over again. It was, they air the episodes and then they will be re-aired in syndication over the summer. And only the really successful shows of the era, Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, Love Boat, those were the only ones that got bigger syndication. Once there was like 5 or 6 seasons to where they could, every night at 6 p.m. you could catch an episode, but they would never be in order.
Well, 2 years ago, there was 803 episodes of Star Trek.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
2 years ago.
2 years ago. All right. Yeah, it's 12,000 now, but 2 years ago is 800. Sure.
It's like a time travel sort of thing.
But Star Trek is one of my guilty pleasures. I watched all the Picard series.
Is that your number one?
MASH is my number one.
Oh, that's right. But you would say Star Trek is still, it's up there.
Oh,
but not top 5, though.
I could swap any of those out, but Star Trek is a franchise, and to sit there and go, well, I like Enterprise more than I like
so many
Generation.
different series.
Yeah, there's Lower Decks, there's Enterprise, there's Strange New Worlds, the original series, Nine, the animated series. Yeah,
there's so much. There's amazing. Well, we did it, guys. We did it. We got through the TV shows. So now we're going to the next portion, which is the movies. All right. So let's go through the movies. We're going to go it again, and we're going to try and focus on the movie. What is the number 5? Number 5.
Twilight of the Cockroaches.
What?
Yeah.
One more time.
I'm gonna say that again, and I'm gonna say it slowly. Twilight of the Cockroaches.
All right, tell us about Twilight of the Cockroaches and why it's number 5 on your favorite movie.
All right, go back to an era. If you know, like Bedknobs and Broomsticks, Mary Poppins, Roger Rabbit. What do all of those have in common?
Animated with live action.
Yep. So Twilight of the Cockroaches is animated with the cockroaches and live action with the people, obviously. But the story centers around a couple who, and this is a Japanese film. And it was one of those that I special ordered through Blockbuster years ago. My daughter stole it from me because I don't have a VHS player anymore. But the story centers around and starts off with this couple in their apartment, and they have a fight. And she walks out. and you see it from the perspective of the cockroaches.
Mm-hmm.
And over the next few generations of the cockroaches, they are thriving because the man has let the apartment just go to pot.
Yeah.
So we see generations of cockroaches in the span of 2 or 3 days in the human's perspective.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's a trip of a film, because at some point the wife comes back, or he gets a girlfriend and she starts cleaning the house or the apartment, and the cockroaches have to now militarize and defend. And so you get these factions of cockroaches, like, we've been living for generations, under prosperity, and they humanize the cockroaches. So you see them, dressed in top hats, wearing monocles, going out to the bar, which is basically, his kitchen sink that he's left last night's food at. But the story in human time takes less than 3 or 4 days. But for the cockroaches, it's generations. And it's just, kids, there are ways that you can watch certain movies, like Pink Floyd's The Wall. Twilight of the Cockroaches is one of those movies.
Wow, this movie, I'm just watching clips of this, and it's like giving me vibes of like Enter the Void, and what else is Joe's Apartment? Did you ever see that?
Oh yeah,
Joe's Apartment. That's got to be a remake of this, right?
No. Joe's. I mean, it's a similar thing, but Joe's Apartment is a comedy, and it's got a similar feel to it, and maybe there is some homage to Twilight of the Cockroaches. I have not found a good copy of that movie. But it is one that I always tell people, hey, you want a trippy movie? Here you go.
Wow, that is. I'm watching some of the clips, because I play the clips as you guys talk about the stuff, and so I'm watching some of the clips from it, and that is intense, dude. Do you remember watching this movie for the first time?
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember. I was managing an A&W restaurant in my hometown, and somebody mentioned the movie to me, and it's like, oh, you should go to Blockbuster and rent this. And I did, and I loved it so much that I went back to Blockbuster and was like, how do I buy this movie? Mm-hmm. And they're like, well, we have a special, and I paid $50 for the VHS tape, which back in 1989,
like
that was a lot of money. What's that?
That was like $150 back then, no?
$50 was it was a significant amount of money back then.
You don't think it would be like $150 now?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I wouldn't pay $50 for a DVD of it today. I could probably find I should be able to find a copy of it somewhere, I'm sure.
I got to get a copy of this movie. It's Twilight of the Cockroaches, a 1987 anime live-action written film directed by Hiroki Yoshida that combines live-action footage with animation, and it is written by the same person. Cinematography is by Uwu Yamaki. I've got no budget or Blockbuster numbers at all. So
I don't know that it ever had a U.S. release. But if you like Hayao Miyazaki, it's got a similar feel.
Spirited Away.
It's got a similar feel with the animation. But it's.
Wow, that's crazy. Okay, what's your number 4? What do you got? Number 4. Anchorman. What a great movie. Love Anchorman. But for those who don't know, what is Anchorman and why do you love it so much?
I'm not the biggest fan of Will Ferrell or Adam Sandler. But every so often, for me, like every other movie that each one of them does hits me well. Adam Sandler would be like, I don't care for his movies as much, but Waterboy, okay. And then Click, not so much. Happy Gilmore, all right, yeah, sure. Cousin Nicky, nah. And people's opinions vary, but Will Ferrell is another one where Night at the Roxbury, you bet. Land of the Lost, no. Anchorman, yeah, absolutely. Bewitched,
so why Anchorman? No. Tell me why. That's what we really want to
know. Will Ferrell plays a newscaster in San Diego, and it's an all boys club, and it's takes place in the 1970s, and so it's a period comedy, but it's just smart humor, where the characters have a redeeming quality, and you get to see. You get to see a progression of characters, but all the while, this anchor man, this newscaster in San Diego being this huge local celebrity, and turning around and then having this young female upstart kind of put him in his place. Wow. But it's a highly quotable movie, and 90% of the time my quotes work 60% of the time.
Like Sex Panther, right?
Yeah. Paul Rudd is in it. Who else is in it?
Vince Vaughn is in it.
Vince Vaughn.
Who else? Who's the guy? He's The Office. Michael. Why can I not think Steve Carell? Why am I not thinking of Steve Carell's name? Jesus.
And Steve Carell's character is just hysterical. Ben Stiller makes an appearance. Yeah, I love Lamp.
Are you just?
Yeah, it's just a solid. It's a solid comedy. It's a parody of just what real life might have been back in the 70s. But it's just good fun. I can turn that movie on at any time and just enjoy it.
Dorothy Mantooth is a saint. Anchorman and the Legend of Ron Burgundy is a 2004 American satirical comedy film directed by Adam McKay, which is killing it with Succession right now and a lot of different things.
Oh, yeah.
In his directorial debut, produced by Judd Apatow, written by Farrell and Adam McKay, and cinematography by Thomas E. Akerman. And it was a budget of $26 million, made $90 million, so it was a big deal for DreamWorks for sure. Great. Anchorman. Love it. It's so fantastic. Works all the time, 60% of the time, every time, all the time, whenever we want. So what is your number? What are we? Number three? Number three.
Number three is Galaxy Quest.
Galaxy Quest. Wow. What a great pick. Tell us about Galaxy Quest and why it's got a special place on your list.
It is, and I'm not thrilled that they're doing some sort of reboot of it or planning on doing a reboot of it. But Tim Allen, Sigourney Weaver, Alan Rickman, Tony Shalhoub. I'm missing a couple more.
Who's
in
our
there.
guy? Who's the guy? One of my favorite guys. He was
Guy.
He was in Charlie's Angels. He was the main bad guy. He also does.
What is his name?
Sam Rockwell.
Dude, but his character's name his character's name is Guy.
It is Guy. That is his name, literally. Guy. I love him. Sam Rockwell's awesome.
So all these characters are actors, and they were in a TV show. Think Star Trek, the original series with William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy, and all them. They were that cast, where Tim Allen was the captain, Sigourney Weaver was the Uhura, Alan Rickman played the Spock-like character. Mm-hmm. And they are now in modern era where their life has devolved into Comic-Con. And they all hate Tim Allen because he was the captain, and that's who everyone loves, and they don't care about anyone else.
And he wanted to leave the series. He left it early, I think. It was some like a Seinfeld type deal.
And what happens is they're at a Comic-Con, and Tim Allen's approached by what he thinks are just cosplayers, and they need him to help them out. And the rest of the actors are like, I guess it's a paying gig. We should do it.
We should probably do that. We got no work.
And little do they know that it's actual aliens who have seen the episodes and deem it as historical artifacts.
And they
Uh,
they made all the controls of the guy's
Yeah,
hands.
yeah.
So he's like, just do what you did on the show. They literally made everything to their detail of what it was, like a
Yeah.
radio frequency that they broadcast into. It was the only thing they got from Earth or something, right?
Yeah, and so you know, the aliens you know, bring all these actors out into space because their planet is being threatened, and they think that, you know, Tim Allen's character, why can't I think of his name? Captain McTaggart. Captain Taggart. McTaggart. Oh, you'd think, you know, you'd think my number 3 film.
You think you would know the lead actor's name? Well, you know the lead actor's name.
Well, Tim Allen's the lead actor, but he plays Jason Nesmith.
Jason Nesmith. There it is.
Yeah.
Gwen.
But the captain, it's Tim Allen playing Jason Nesmith, who plays Captain McTaggart.
Right, exactly. He's a guy
yeah.
playing a guy who's playing a guy.
Yeah, yeah. But
So
it's just a fun parody of Star Trek, but it is its own thing.
Yeah.
And it's smart. It's got an incredible cast.
Mm-hmm.
Enrico Colantoni. Who else is in it? Tim Allen, Alan Rickman, and I'm upset just because, you know, if they were to try to reboot it, you know, Tim Allen has had his issues. Alan Rickman has passed on.
Right, that would be tough to get somebody else to.
You know, Tony Shalhoub is a Tony Award-winning and Emmy Award-winning actor.
Oh, it'd be great to get him. I think he said he's back. I think they said he would be back, and Sigourney Weaver would be cool.
I will not. I will not disparage it. I will give it a go.
It may be worth it.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about Galaxy Quest. Being it is a 1999 American science fiction comedy film directed by Dean Parasol, written by David Howard and Robert Gordon. It is starring Tim Allen, Sigourney Weaver, Alan Rickman, Tony Shalhoub, Sam Rockwell, Daryl Mitchell. Cinematography is by Jerzy Zelzinski, and it was a $45 million budget, made 90. So modest, but it was still a win for DreamWorks. Again, another DreamWorks. You love DreamWorks movies, huh?
It just happened to me. Well, it's one of those things. I mean, if you like Mel Brooks and you like Spaceballs or Robin Hood Men in Tights or Airplane or those and Airplane's a little bit out there. I don't think Airplane is held up as well as some other movies that are you know, parodies. Mm-hmm. I don't even. I tried watching History of the World Part 3 or whatever I couldn't even get through one episode.
It doesn't look interesting to me. I'm sorry.
But it's one of those fun like Idiocracy, you know, just it's a fun movie. And again, I like smart comedy, and Galaxy Quest has smart comedy.
I love that. Amazing. Yeah. What's your number 2?
Nightmare Before Christmas.
Ooh, I love that. A lot of people think that Tim Burton directed that. He didn't actually, but He
produced it.
He did, absolutely. It's from his world. But could you tell us a little bit about Nightmare Before Christmas and why it landed on your number 2?
Yeah, Nightmare Before Christmas came out on my birthday in 1991, I think. Mm-hmm. Centers around the world of the holidays. Jack Skellington being the king of Halloween, and just as unhappy with his life or death as it would be. He's a skeleton. But the world of Halloween Town has your Tim Burton type characters, the ghouls, the goblins, Sally, who is a patchwork Frankenstein, and he just goes on I don't want to say he goes on a vision quest, but he goes on a self-discovery and finds in the woods a glade or a series of trees, and each tree has a different holiday on it. And so he decides he's going to take over Christmas. Mm-hmm. with the help of Lock, Shock, and Barrel. Paul Rubens. Who else were the voices of? I'm gonna revert to like the Lion King and come up with Whoopi Goldberg. Who are the voices? Catherine O'Hara. No, Catherine O'Hara was
Catherine
Sally.
O'Hara. Yeah.
Paul Rubens, Pee Wee Herman.
Ken Page, Ed Ivory, Glenn Shaddix, William Hickey, Chris Sarandon.
Glenn Shaddix was Glenn Shaddix was in Beetlejuice.
Mm-hmm.
I believe he played Otho.
Yeah. He does, yeah. Otho, yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Christmas.
Henry Selick is your director.
Yes.
And Henry Selick, you'll know him from Pete's Dragon, Fox and the Hound, James and the Giant Peach. And I think he worked on some Wes Anderson films as well. But Henry Selick is Coraline.
James the Giant Peach. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you like Nightmare Before Christmas? What is it about it that kind of gets you jazzed up?
Other than it being kind of a hallmark for animation, the reinvention of animation, if you will. It's not a DreamWorks, it's Touchstone. And yes, it was distributed by Disney. But it reestablished animation as a solid film medium. Oftentimes, your animated films are those happy, The Lion King, The Little Mermaid, Aladdin. They're pablum for children, and not so much for adults. So I love animation that can play to children, but it has adult themes, and adults can relate to. So, I think I have 12 characters in tattoo art on my leg from this movie.
Oh wow! So it has a lot. It means a lot to you.
Oh well, and I am a huge Danny Elfman fan.
Yeah, he's great. He's such a great composer.
So Chris Sarandon, yeah. Well, Chris Sarandon did the voice of Dan.
He did the singing,
Jack
right?
Skellington,
He did the singing,
but Danny Elfman did all the singing, and so and Danny Elfman has done the musical scores for more movies than I can probably think of, including the original Spider-Mans. He did Age of Ultron. Every Tim Burton. There's like 20 Tim Burton movies, from Pee Wee Herman, Batman Returns. Just a ridiculous amount of Danny Elfman films scores out there.
Absolutely.
Danny Elfman has yet to win an Oscar.
Well, that sucks. We should absolutely campaign for Mr. Elfman. Hopefully, it comes up with something.
So one of the big reasons that drew me to it, I went to see it opening day in the movie theaters, and I want to say 1991. It might have been 92 or 93. But it just looked like a good movie at the time. I've easily seen it 25, 30 times since then. And again, with Danny Elfman, just him singing it and it being, I probably have, I think I have Nightmare Before Christmas soundtracks in 7 different languages. All the yeah, I am obsessed with Danny Elfman. So
just a scotch.
Well,
7 different languages.
Part of it is Tim Burton too. I love Tim Burton's movies, but Danny Elfman's musical contribution just adds so much. Same with Sweeney Todd. It's like it's a Tim Burton movie. Yeah, his wife's in it. And Danny Elfman did the music behind it. Yeah. Johnny Depp, not great, but I still enjoy it.
It's great. Danny Elfman's amazing. Yeah. Nightmare Before Christmas, though, is Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas is a 1993 stop-motion animated musical dark fantasy film directed by Henry Selick. Screenplay was by Caroline Thompson. produced by Tim Burton and Denise Denovi, starring Danny Elfman, Chris Sarandon, Catherine O'Hara, William Hickey, Glenn Shaddix, Paul Rubens, Ken Page, Ed Ivory. Cinematography was by Pete Kochik. It was a budget of $24 million, made $91 million. That was for Touchstone, distributed by Buena Vista, which was the more adult version of Disney's distribution partner affiliate. So wonderful, amazing.
Yeah.
What is your
and it's easily done more than the 90 million in the box office.
Oh yeah, at home it's taking home.
Oh yeah, it just had its 30th anniversary. They did Danny Elfman did a live concert of it in the Hollywood Bowl 9 months ago, and Billie Eilish sang for Sally.
That's right.
They got Paul Rubens back. It was just a live. They showed the movie behind them, and they sang everything live.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's some bootlegs of it. I keep writing to Danny Elfman saying, please, I love your solo work. Big Mess, great album. Please get a good recording of
that Billie Eilish
concert.
One. Yeah, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's your number one? What do you got for us? Number one.
Star Wars.
The franchise or particular?
Well,
we usually hold you to a particular.
I am saying Star Wars: A New Hope, original theatrical release, not the digitally remastered. With the stop motion in it. With the horrible dialogue that George Lucas wrote. Star Wars. I saw it opening day when I was 7 years old.
Tell us about Star Wars. What is it?
What's that?
What is Star Wars?
It is somebody who doesn't know. Opera. It is a space opera. The story of the rebellion versus the Empire. Darth Vader, which essentially means Dark Father, is building a weapon of mass destruction, and Princess Leia of Alderaan has somehow managed to get her hands on the Death Star's plans. And if you watch, the movies out of order, you'll know that Rogue Squadron eventually somehow, and again, there's a huge franchise. Yes, I've seen every episode of every show, every movie. I, at one point, had 30 different of the novels that were written, including Timothy Zahn's Heir to the Empire, which they are kind of building into the Ahsoka TV series. They're way too late because Heir to the Empire was supposed to take place after Return of the Jedi, and it had Luke and Leia and everyone else.
No, we're going to mix that up. Have you heard of the Darth Bane series? Are you into that?
Yeah. I have all. I got rid of the books, the physical books. I have all the ebooks, but most of it is not canon. And so, I even have a copy of Splinter of the Mind's Eye, which was a story of Luke and Leia that fell outside of the Star Wars realm. But it was one of the first novels written. But as a kid, I had the pre-ordered action figures that Christmas morning, 1977, I got an empty box from Sears because
that's right, because they didn't have any action figures, so you had to wait until they had them, and they fulfilled them like 2 months later, right in February or something.
Yeah, and Glenn wishes he still had that box.
Oh my gosh, it would be so much money, probably. I mean, you've got a lot of Star Wars behind you. It looks like. Do you have any
everything that I have behind
exclusive?
Me is just Chewbacca.
Oh, it's just Chewbacca. Oh, big fan of Chewbacca. So tell me a little bit about what was it like seeing Star Wars for the first time, and what you said you saw it opening day. Like, give us that feeling, because again, we're proponents of people going to the movies and filmmakers making movies for people to go to the movies for.
It's one of the first movies I remember sitting and wanting to sit through. It was just there was a lot of hype. Movies back then, you would see commercials, but Star Wars was, it set the standard for cross merchandising. It set the standard for franchises. I don't think the Marvel Cinematic Universe would have, it would be successful, I'm sure, but Star Wars kind of set the table for cross promotions, for merchandising, for building a different world and a different universe. As a 7-year-old, seeing it in the theater, and again, watching it on a TV now, I've seen the movie over 100 times easily. It's just, there is an awe when you can watch something and you are lost in it. It's what I like to do when I perform on stage.
Mm-hmm.
What I love to do is to tell a story in my performance to where the audience is lost in my story. And the show is over and they're like, I want more. I loved being in the story. I like taking people on a journey with me. And that's what Star Wars did. Not the greatest writing. I will admit, the special effects at the time were amazing, but George Lucas, wanted more, which is why he did the digital remastering of the first 3 in, or episodes 4, 5, and 6, however you want to go about it. But Star Wars has been just it's been that one thing in my life. The Christmas special aired on my birthday. So that is why I have all the Chewbacca stuff. Because my birthday is the official Wookiee high holiday called Life Day. And so I've been to Disneyland the last couple of years that they've now officially started celebrating Life Day.
Wow.
But everything behind me is Chewbacca. I'm a member of the Peter Mayhew Foundation, providing, charitable support. Peter Mayhew's birthday was yesterday, and he passed away a number of years ago.
Yeah,
but
I saw that. Rest in power.
Yeah. I'm also, a member of the New Orleans Mardi Gras Society, the International Crew of Chewbaccas. Just fun stuff.
Is it fun?
It is, and again, my collection behind me is full of random things from autographed pictures to film cells to action figures to ceramics and posters. I've even got a few tattoos of Chewbacca. But Star Wars is just one of those. I think every child has that movie that just draws them in, captures their imagination, and takes you on a journey. And that has been 45 years of my life. It's not the easiest film for me to watch these days, just because watching The Mandalorian and then going back and watching Star Wars and going, oh my god,
the effects.
Luke, grow up. It's. But I did go back and I started watching everything Star Wars in chronological order. So I started with, The Phantom Menace and suffered my way through that, and then watched all the animated shows, and then, revisited The Mandalorian and then went forward. I'm looking forward to the Ahsoka.
Yes, that looks super dope.
And again,
with Rosario Dawson and Doug Filoni, he's staying on, and Jon Favreau. They're making it what it needs to be. They're getting that. They're hitting that sweet spot. That Rogue One really was in there, and then
I love Rogue One.
Rogue One's great, but it's a standalone. And now Andor is kind of filling that void, and then Mandalorian's kind of got more of the pop of Star Wars. It's still dark. Western space, but it's got more of it's got the Grogu, the young Yoda deal, and
again, at least with Filoni and Favreau, they didn't pull a Jar Jar Binks. They did the same thing.
Yeah,
let's bring in this character that's going to, get a whole new generation of kids involved in watching Star Wars. And it absolutely did. But then you've got all the adults that are like, oh, baby Yoda.
Yeah, exactly.
Grogu.
His name's Grogu.
It's Grogu.
Yeah, quit being an asshole.
But even getting Katie Sackhoff in as Bo-Katan, and she's dealing with all the fun stuff regarding her character.
That's right, handling all the Mandalore stuff, and that's really good. She's got a good arc in this thing. I think they're setting up the movie real well, because I think there's going to be a Mandalorian movie that's going to
the Mandalorian isn't just Din Djarin, it's Bo-Katan, it's the whole race. It's all of them. So even Grogu is a Mandalorian because he's taking the oath for whatever that's worth.
But, he's taking the shield. He's got his own armor. It's good writing. Andor, I think, is probably some of the best writing. And season 2 of Andor, if and when it ever gets produced, will lead right up to Rogue One. Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little
you'll
bit.
have a nice little trilogy there.
Amazing. Love to hear that. Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, is a 1977 American epic space opera film written and directed by George Lucas. Heavy hitter, produced by Lucasfilm, distributed by 20th Century Fox. This is is produced by Gary Kurtz, starring Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, Peter Cushing, Alec Guinness, and what was the gentleman's name who played Chewbacca?
Peter Mayhew.
Yeah, I don't know why they don't have add that to the top.
And David Prowse, who was the body of Darth Vader.
That's right. James Earl Jones.
James Earl Jones.
Anthony Daniels, Kenny Baker, Peter Mayhew. There we go. And Alec Guinness, obviously.
Kenny Baker, yeah.
Wow, we got a lot of
I think Anthony Daniels and Peter Mayhew, because Anthony Daniels as C-3PO, I think was in everything up until I want to say he was in everything, but Peter Mayhew did everything. The Christmas specials, Star Tours, all the movies until he passed away.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And this was a meager budget of $11 million, and it made $775 million in the box office. This was a major swing and a out of the park hit for Lucas and 20th Century Fox. That just killed it. Amazing, number one. That's great. So thank you so much. We've gotten down from the top 5 favorite TV shows, top 5 favorite movies. It's been an amazing thing. We're not done yet, though, folks. We've got just a little bit more to go. I'm sorry, guys, we do a thing called the Hot Spots here. It's where we take a year. Every actor, every writer, every producer, every guest member on this podcast gets a year. And Glenn's year was 1963. And some of those top movies in 1963 and TV shows we're going to go over. So some of the top movies: The Great Escape,
yay,
Cleopatra, and From Russia with Love. Do any of these movies hit you somewhere in the gullet that you resonate?
Well, I've got my other favorites from that year. Cleopatra, I'm sure I've seen maybe Elizabeth Taylor, Richard Burton, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm not a big Liz Taylor fan. But The Birds, you bet. Alfred Hitchcock. It's one of, other than Psycho or Rope, The Birds is probably one of the most well-known Alfred Hitchcock.
And that's 63?
Yeah.
Nice. The Birds.
Well, no, The Birds is 1963. And From Russia with Love, Sean Connery is James Bond. Yeah, you bet.
Yeah.
Get you some Connery. And I love pretty much every James Bond movie, even though most of them are misogynistic.
Yeah. Yeah. I would. It's all right. Just give me a little smack once in a while.
Yeah.
Just a little smack.
I think I won a contest once because I knew it was a radio contest, kids radio, where you would listen to music over the air and you could call into the station. But they had a contest. It was a James Bond contest. I think a movie had just come out. This was like 2007, maybe. And they're like, well, who can name all the actors who've played? and I not only named, Roger Moore, Sean Connery, Timothy B. Dalton, Daniel Craig, but then I was like, I can't even think of it now.
Yeah, but the obscure ones.
Yeah, but there's not David Niven. It might have been David Niven. There was a parody. But I at the time I won the contest because I could remember. It's like remembering all the names of the Eagles and being able to remember Timothy B. Schmidt as one of the members of the Eagles, and you're like, who?
Yeah. Okay, so did The Great Escape? Did you like that one? Did you ever see that one?
Yeah. Steve McQueen. The Great Escape is a great movie, and I believe the TV series Hogan's Heroes was derived from that.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Great Escape, World War II, Nazi prison camp.
That's right.
And I believe Hogan's Heroes was the comedic version of The Great Escape.
Mm-hmm.
But I would have to argue the Pink Panther in 1963. Great film. Peter Sellers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Peter Sellers is amazing.
And Jason and the Argonauts.
Okay. Well, that's good. 1963. All right, you got a nice, good list going on there.
Well, Ray Harryhausen was a pioneer in that stop motion animation. Clash of the Titans, Jason and the Argonauts. There was just those were movies that when I was in grade school, those were the ones that they would show on rainy days when we couldn't go outside for recess. It would be those, not Pink Panther. I think that was a little bit too adult.
Maybe a little too adult.
Jason and the Argonauts, and I'm trying to think of some of the other Harryhausen. Sinbad and the Seven Voyages of Sinbad. All those stop motion movies, and then the one with Harry Hamlin in 1980, Clash of the Titans. I can't say that I've ever seen Cleopatra. I'm sure I have. But there's some iconic films, again, the Pink Panther had a number of films derived from that. All the James Bond movies, and then obviously Hitchcock with
Birds. Amazing.
Well, yeah, The Birds, and The Birds is a classic.
It is a classic.
Good, suspenseful story. And again, anytime you're watching movies from 60 years ago, you have to take into account the limitations in cinematography at the time.
Of course, yeah.
But if you're gonna watch an Alfred Hitchcock movie, watch Rope, ROPE. It is a single camera, and it was filmed. They had to switch film canisters, but the film was shot in one take, effectively.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Well, we'll have to give that a shot.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And again, another Alfred Hitchcock, but just the cinematography in that the actors had to get everything right in one take or they started over. So it was one shot for the first half of the film. They ran out of film on the camera, and basically the camera pans across, hits a column in the room, and that's where they made the film break, and then did the other part of it.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for talking about these 1963 movies. Now let's move on quickly to the shows. We're just going to kind of briefly go through them. Andy Griffin's show, The Twilight Zone, and The Avengers. Any of those have any soft spots for you?
Well, all those shows from that era. Andy Griffith was one of the top shows of the year, but it didn't come out that year.
No. These were top. These were like in their prime. Of 63. Who did really well.
Obviously, Zone. I Love Lucy, and Andy Griffith. I didn't watch the Avengers, and it's not the Marvel Avengers, there were a few TV shows that came out that year. in 1963. Doctor Who.
Okay, yeah, classic.
General Hospital.
Jeez, yeah, that's been going for a long time.
And General Hospital is still on the air. Doctor Who is on the air in different forms.
Yeah.
The Outer Limits, which
that's kind of
very
like
similar to the Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
Wow. But of shows from 1963, the one that I know the best, Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom.
Okay, very cool. That's a good one.
But it was a documentary. Yeah, but it was just one of those half-hour shows that I remember watching in the 70s and I think in the 80s, that came on right before The Wonderful World of Disney. Mm-hmm. So the Wonderful World of Disney had a primetime slot on Sunday evenings at like 7:30 or 8 o'clock, but Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom was always on before it. And that was just one of those shows that I remember. Andy Griffith, of course. That one's still on. A young Ron Howard who has gone on, to have his own success in a few TV shows, and now his daughter is directing Star Wars episodes.
Yeah, absolutely. She's in it now too.
Oh, Bryce Dallas Howard. Yeah, she's amazing.
She's killing it. All right, so we got to move on though. We got to move a little forward. These are amazing shows, wonderful, but we got to talk a little bit about our lifestyle moment. This has brought us to our next segment, where we highlight a person who was killing it in 1963, no pun intended, in the lifestyle personal development area. So this brings us to Earl Nightingale. He was from 1921 to 1989. He was an American radio speaker and author known for being the dean of personal development. He's renowned for his work in motivation and character development, encapsulated in his fame record, The Strangest Secret, which sold over 1 million copies, making it the first spoken word recording to achieve golden record status. Nightingale co-founded the Nightingale Conant Corporation. I can't even talk. I swear I'm not drunk yet, folks. A leading resource in the self-help industry, which produced numerous personal development audio and video programs. His insights on success, such as We Become What We Think About, continue to inspire individuals aiming for personal and professional growth. Are you familiar with any of Mr. Nightingale's work, Glenn?
I'm not. I'm wondering. There's got to be individuals who. I hate using the word derivative, but
inspired by.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, you mentioned the name. I'm like, okay. Well, he and I were both in the Marines. That's cool.
That's dope.
Granted, he was apparently. He was on the USS Arizona when it was hit during Pearl Harbor.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. So somebody, I'm going to have to do a little research on myself.
Do you have any motivational speakers or authors that you listen to or that you'd like to shout out?
Yeah, I'm trying to think who the author is off the top of my head. I'll get to it in a. Not Jonathan Livingston Seagull. That's the name of the book. Robert Pirsig wrote Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. Don Miguel Ruiz, The Four Agreements.
Yes, The Four Agreements, wonderful.
And that's one that's reading the book, that's great, but just the 4 tenets, and it's like, it's real easy to just maintain those. And I'm trying to remember, I'm going to have to type it in. Richard Bach.
Samsonite. I was way off. What's his name? Jonathan Richard Bach? Or
no,
Jonathan.
No, Richard Bach is an author. Mm-hmm. He wrote Jonathan Livingston Seagull, which is a very short book. Mm-hmm. But he is Richard Bach is an inspirational he's more of a philosopher, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So Richard Bach wrote a number of books. I'm not sure if he's still alive. He's got to be like 70 or something.
Okay.
But
What'd you get from him? What was the main
thing
that you took away?
There was one book he wrote called Bridge Across Forever. And Richard Bach was a pilot, and Bridge Across Forever was just a story about him and his wife taking a trip, flying in the plane, and as they got higher and higher, they would see these what they thought was a river,
mm-hmm.
and all the tributaries that were branching off the river. And as they flew along, they realized that those were paths in their life.
Mm-hmm.
That your entire life is a body of water, and as you make choices, you create rivers,
mm-hmm.
and those rivers can break off into tributaries and into streams and possibly dry out.
Wow.
And so it was just a beautiful story. It was a love story, I mean, for nothing else, but my ex-wife and I used to read aloud to each other, and that was one of my favorite books that we read aloud to each other.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that with us. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's
awesome.
Jonathan Livingston Seagull is another philosophy type book,
mm-hmm.
and Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance by Robert Pirsig is another one in that philosophical. You know, the choices you make not only affect your life but those around you. And have impact. So it's kind of like the butterfly that flaps his wings in Japan and creates a tidal wave halfway across. The butterfly effect.
Yes.
And so, yeah, that's
amazing.
And again,
thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
But Earl Nightingale,
good stuff. Wonderful. Well, that leads us out. So as we're wrapping up, would you like to quickly kind of say something to kind of wrap up what we've talked about in the art of filmmaking and TV and how it can really, change people's lives and the art form of it, and just if you want to just kind of give a nice little wrap up.
Yeah, I'll go back to what I said before. If you're a writer, keep writing. Art is not just a consumable item. Art is thought-provoking. Art can be very personal and very private. Art is, and again, not just writing, but filmmaking and acting and all those things. There is something that you're trying to say, and if it brings forth discussion, if it brings forth community, even if it is something horrible like Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, it still has value. Horrible movie, by the way. I loved it. It just, don't give up your pursuits. I have a full-time job so that I can afford to do what I love. And I am never more rewarded than, after a performance and somebody smiling afterwards, or coming up to me and saying, your character was so disturbing, I can't talk to you right now. I need time. And it's like, oh, that sounds like we need to have a discussion. And so if your art can create further discussion, you've succeeded, whether you've made a penny on it or not. So, keep creating.
Wow. Amazing. Thank you so much. We've made it to the end, but before we're done, I like to surprise my guests, each guest, with something new. So I'm going to go ahead and send you something into your email. Let me know when you have received it. I love to just kind of take a look at their faces when they see that we've sent something.
Is it a virus? I don't need one of those.
It's hopefully not a virus. No, not that type of viral infection, but maybe something else.
Is it non-suitable for work?
I think it's suitable for work. It's possible. Okay. It depends on where you work. Have you received anything?
Have
you received it?
I have.
He has.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to do a frozen read of a scene from the 1963 hit, The Great Escape. I will be playing Mr. Bartlett, and you will be playing Hiltz.
All right.
Interior, prisoner of war camp, barracks, day. Bartlett approaches Hiltz, who is lounging on his bed, flipping his baseball into the air. Hiltz, I've been thinking about this escape of ours.
Another tunnel, Bartlett? Yeah, that's your answer to everything.
It's our duty to escape, Hiltz.
You don't have to remind me of that, Bartlett, but these tunnels, they're death trap.
I'm aware of the risks, but we don't have any other option.
And how many men are you planning on taking with you?
250.
250? Bartlett, are you crazy? You think you can pull that off?
Yes, with everyone's help.
All right. Count me in, but Bartlett, there's no room for mistakes.
I know, Hiltz. I know. Ooh, that was a good one. Now
I
knowing
know nothing.
Now
Sergeant
knowing
Schultz.
you're such a good actor, I needed to do another one. So I'm sending you another one your way. I've never done this before. I've done two before, but I've never done what I've done.
I thought you sent me.
Right now.
Thought you sent me the whole script for The Great Escape, and I'm like, oh, cool.
We're gonna do the whole script.
Well, no, I thought you just sent me the whole script, but no.
No, I didn't. Sorry. Now, did you get the next one?
Not yet. Let me refresh here.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, excellent.
Wonderful. So I'm going to play everybody else, and you play the main character, the titular character of Mr. James Bond himself. This is from 1963 hit From Russia with Love.
I love being titular.
Interior, Orient Express, private compartment, night. Bond is at a small table looking over some documents. Tatiana enters from the connecting door. James, what are you doing?
Just checking our little gift from the Russians.
And what do you think about it?
With this Lecter decoder, we could break every Russian code.
Well, then it's our mission is a success.
Not yet, Titania. We still have to get it and ourselves out of here safely.
Do you think that they'll try and stop us?
That's usually the idea.
Well, you don't seem too concerned.
Well, worrying won't help. Now, let's get some rest. We have a long day ahead of us.
Interior, Orient Express, private compartment, night. Bond and Grant sit up opposite of each other at a small table. Bond has just realized Grant is not who he claims to be.
You're not Nash, are you?
Well, it's not exactly Christmas, is it?
Who are you working for? Spectre?
I don't suppose it'll matter to you. You won't be alive to tell anyone.
Do you mind if I have a cigarette?
Go ahead.
I must say, you've played your part well, Nash, luring us here with the promise of the Lecter.
You made it too easy. Following a pretty face.
Well, see who gets the last laugh.
Nice. Killed it. That's a really great impression of James Bond. Now, again, I don't do this. Ladies and gentlemen, you know I don't do this, but he's such a great actor. I had to send him another one, guys. I could not do it. Let me know when you got it.
I'm glad you didn't grab like a Christopher Walken one, because I'd have been,
Slow down. Well, man, I don't want.
I must
Chips.
say,
Sandwich.
you played your part
So
well, Nash.
Little tooth fairy.
Luring us here with the promise
Mr. Benedict.
of the Lecter.
A young man came to my backyard and stole my tooth fairy money. I want that money back. All right. Did you get it by any chance?
What's there? You sent a third one?
I did. Yeah. Did you get it?
Jesus.
It should be there.
Oh, there it is.
All right. Third and final. All right. Interior, Cleopatra's Palace.
Wait. Who's Cleopatra?
Who do you want to play? Who do you want to play, Caesar or Cleo?
I'll be Cleo.
Okay, here we go. Interior, Cleo's palace throne room. Cleopatra sits regally on her throne. Caesar stands before her, a scroll in his hand. I've read your proposal, Cleopatra.
And what do you think, Caesar?
Your demands are ambitious.
I am the Queen of Egypt. I will accept nothing less than what is rightfully mine.
You're asking for more than just Egypt. You seek to rule Rome as well.
And why not? Why shouldn't the world bow to Egypt?
Rome will not be ruled.
I don't seek to rule Rome, Caesar. I seek an alliance, a partnership.
An alliance. Well, that is an interesting proposition.
Think of the possibility, Caesar. Together, we could create a world the likes of which have never been seen.
And what would this world of yours look like?
A world of prosperity, of peace, where Rome and Egypt stand as equals.
I will think on your proposal, Cleopatra.
Do that, Caesar. But remember, time is not on our side.
Wow, amazing. That was killer. Thank you so much.
Oh, and bring in Mark Antony. He's the one I'm going to fall in love with, not you, Caesar.
Hey, don't break me.
Ew.
Oh, okay. So what we're going to do is just thank you so much for coming onto the show. We have no more. We've beat it to the ground. And
War and Peace. We're gonna do the whole.
We're gonna do
War and Peace.
All of the Gone with the Wind, the whole second act, in reverse.
Well, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Translated in Japanese.
In Pig Latin.
Oh, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on, and thank you for being here. Thank you for being our guest. You've just been super awesome.
Well, I had a ton of fun. I don't envy you editing all this content down because I can be very long-winded, and if you're trying to, get it into a half hour, good luck, my friend.
No, it's okay. I'm actually producing this as we talk, so it's all cut live, kind of,
nice.
In a way. So thank you again. So we come to an end and another wild ride through the reels of time with Flashback Montage. It's been one hell of a trip, my friends, as we've revisited some of the most iconic movies, TV shows, and cultural moments of the past with a fresh, irreverent eye. We've laughed, cried, and maybe even learned a thing or two along the way. But the journey never truly ends, does it? There's always another year. There's always another moment in time to explore. So keep your eyes peeled, your ears open, and your heart receptive. And join us again next week for another installment of Flashback Montage. Until then, stay weird, stay curious, and keep the nostalgia alive. And thank you so much for joining us.